Okay, so this is the video of me going over the USA T3 and 5 test. I'm not necessarily going to be providing help as much as just reading each question out loud in case you need help with the reading, okay? I don't know how much help I'm going to give you in terms of solving it because that's not my responsibility. I'm going to go over this with you tomorrow, and that's when I'm really going to help you. So number one, the formula F equals 1.8C plus 32 is used to convert temperatures from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. Find the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit that is equivalent to 20 degrees Celsius. So you're going to take this 20 degrees Celsius, I'm going to give you a little bit of hint, and you're going to plug it in right here, and you are going to have to solve this equation. You're going to multiply these two first, you're going to get a number, and then you're going to add 32 to that number, and you're going to put it right here. Number two. If you need me to repeat that, then go back and rewind and listen to me say it again. Number two. Luann wrote an expression showing 8 times the difference of y and 3. Select all expressions, this is key, that are equivalent to the value of Luann's expression. So 8 times the difference of y and 3. I'm going to look and see how many correct answers there are to give you at least a little bit of hint. I think there's only 2 correct answers for number 2. I'm triple checking. Yeah, I only see 2 correct answers. Okay, so good luck with that. Number 3. Kieran scored 223 fewer points in a computer game than Tyler. Kieran scored 409 points. Which equation would Kieran use to determine how many points T that Tyler scored? So one of these equations will give you the correct amount of points that Tyler scored. And you're going to need to figure out which equation will do that. Okay? And it's probably going to involve addition or subtraction, not multiplication or division. Number 4. Which of the following values for x is true for x times, I'm so sorry, for 4 times x being greater than 10? Now this is a little bit tricky, but I'll give you a slight hint, okay? It might be easier if you guys plug it in and solve it on your own. For example, let's take this answer. And if I take this equation, which I got because it's right here, and let's say x equals 2, so I take the x and I replace it with 2. Well, they're side by side. What does side by side mean? It means multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. So now I'm looking at this. Is 8, see how the mouth is facing the 8? Is 8 bigger than 10? No, 8's not bigger than the 10. So this is not the correct answer. There's only one right answer for number 4. Which answer, when you plug it in and substitute and then multiply times 4, will be greater than 10? That's how you do that. Number 5. Select the letter from each column that matches an equivalent expression for each row. Okay. Okay, this is one that we haven't done before because there's no variables involved. The good news is you guys know how to do this. And I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about because I'm going to do one example for you. I'm going to do the middle one, okay? I'm going to look at the middle one. This is what you're looking at. Now, think of PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now, there are parentheses here. And these are the parentheses. So we're going to do what's inside the parentheses first. We're going to do 3 plus 4. And when we do that, 3 plus 4 is 7. And now we have 7 inside the parentheses and we have 8 outside the parentheses. And what do they mean when they're side by side? That's either 8 plus 7, 8 times 7, 8 minus 7, or 8 divided by 7. And when they're side by side, you should remember that that means multiplication. 8 times 7 is 56. Now, I don't see 56 here, here, or here. However, when I'm looking at the answers, 24 plus 32, when you add those together, you get 56. Okay? And here's what they actually did. They distributed. So, for this, I'm going to put E right here. But what they did, they actually did this. They went 8 times 3 to get 24. They did 8, they distributed. 8 times 4 is 32, and that's all they did. They didn't even add. And you can do it either way. You can add the two numbers in the parentheses, and then multiply times 8, like I did. And then I just added 24 plus 32, and I got 56. Or you can do it this other way through distribution. Either way, there's 2 ways to solve these, and that's all you got to do for that. So you guys should do fine for number 5. Number 6. The Science Club is conducting an experiment. The table below shows whether their saltwater solution reached a freezing point at different temperatures. And then this is the table right here of saltwater solution freezing temperatures. So when the temperature was this and this, these are negatives. No, forgive me. When the temperature was this and this, it froze. When the temperature were these, it did not freeze. Based on these results, which inequality represents their conclusion regarding the temperature for which their saltwater solution freezes? So you guys should be able to look at this. And it's going to be tricky because the negatives make this difficult. The negatives make this difficult, but there is one correct answer, okay? And I'll tell you right now, this is not the right answer. It's either B, C, or D. So, for the temperature to freeze, it has to be less than how many degrees? And that's a key phrase. It needs to be less than something. Number 7. You can pause and think about it before you go on to the next one for every single one of these. Number 7. About halfway through, Nikki dove into a pool and swam underwater. The table shows how her depth changed during a 4-second time period. So this is the table of her dive. Which equation shows the relationship in the table between the time t and the depth d? So only one of these equations, when you take one of these numbers and you plug it in for t, will you get one of these numbers for d? Let me show you what I'm talking about as an example, okay? So let me take, let's take this. When the time is 1 second, and let's take this answer. If I put 1 in place of time, and I take 1 plus 1.5, remember, when you add a number without a decimal to a number with a decimal, you've got to convert the number without into a number with a decimal. And when I do that, I get 2.5. Now, 1 plus 1.5 is 2.5. Now, let me go over here. Is that a 2.5? No, that's a 1.5. So I know this is not the right answer. It's either going to be A, B, or C. So you might have to plug it in and solve for every single one of these, okay? Which is fine. Just know that this is going to involve multiplication, and this is going to involve multiplication, and this is going to be addition. Number 8. Which inequality matches the number below? Okay, there are 2 really bad answers here. And I'll tell you this because everybody should be able to recognize what. So you need to figure out what symbol goes here, but you should know what number goes right here based upon where this is. So there are 2 answers that are really bad because they give you the wrong number at the end. So that leaves you with 2 possible good answers, and it's going to be one or the other. And you guys should know this. You guys should know this because we went over this a few weeks ago. Number 9, Samir has a collection of coins. He wants to find out how many dimes he has without having to count them. According to the U.S. Mint report, a dime has a mass of approximately 2.27 grams. If the total weight of his collection is 47.67 grams, about how many dimes are in his coin collection? So you need to figure out which one of these you need to do to solve number 9. And I'm going to tell you what to do, and I know you're still probably going to struggle with it, and that's okay. Because I know a lot of you struggle with long division. You're going to have to divide. And you're going to have to take 47.67 grams divided by 2.27. And when you do that, you're then going to want to move this decimal 2 places to the right, as well as this decimal 2 places to the right. Now you can actually solve it. So when you do that, that's 2.2, that's 200, this becomes 227, and this becomes 4,767. Now, I know these are kind of big numbers, but these are what you're going to use to solve it, okay? And then you will get your answer right here. I don't know if it's a decimal or not. I'm looking at it real quick. 454, 454, 454. I don't think the answer is a decimal. I think it's a whole number. So if you do your division right, if you get a decimal, you did it wrong. If you get a whole number, I think you're going to be doing it right. Number 10, a petri dish. A petri dish is growing bacteria. It starts with 3 cells on day 1, 9 cells on day 2, and it continues tripling the number of cells every day after that. How many cells of bacteria are there on day 5? So day 1, it has 3. Day 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's tripling. So I did this times 3. Day 3, there's now not 3, not 9, but now, this will be easier for you to see, it's tripling. So on day 3, there's now 27. And they want to know on day 5. So then there's day 4, and then there's day 5. How many cells are there on day 5? So based on the fact that there's 27, well, actually it doesn't tell us there's 27. I apologize. I actually just gave you that because it says tripling means times 3. The fact that there's 27 on day 3 should mean that there's going to be a lot more than that on day 5. So these are the really bad answers. It's either A or B. Which one of those represents you multiplying something times 3 and times 3 and times 3 and times 3? You should know this because we've gone over exponents before. A lot, actually. Number 11. Look at all this. Oh my gosh. Look at all this information. I have to minimize this. And then I'm going to go one bigger, and that should be enough. Yes, just enough. Okay, this is a graph of Elena's babysitting earnings, as shown below. So here's the graph. These are her earnings, and what you have, this is how much she earned based upon how many hours she worked. So for example, when she worked for 5 hours, right here, she made $25. And I'll be honest, that's a really low wage. That's like old school. That's like 1980s wage. You should definitely be making more if you're babysitting. So it says complete, I'm going to leave it right here. Complete this statement that best represents the dependent and independent variables. Now, class, we've talked about dependent and independent variables before. For each box, choose the letter before the word or phrase that is correct. Now, you should remember this. Okay? And here's what I'm going to say. The dependent depends on something. So either the money that she makes depends upon the number of hours she works, and if that's true, then that would be your answer. Or the money that she makes, I'm so sorry, the number of hours she works is going to be dependent upon the money that she makes. These are really your only two possible answers. One of those sounds better than the other because it's true. The one that's dependent is going to depend upon something. The one that's independent doesn't depend on anything. So, it's either going to be this, or it's going to be that. C and D are not involved. Dollars per hour and hours per dollar, that's more of a taking a ratio and dividing, and that's not involved with this one. Number 12. Brett drew this number line to represent the inequality x is less than 3. Which statement needs to be done to make this number line correct? A. His number line is already correct. B. The point at 3 should be filled in instead of open. So that means it should be like this. Is that true? C. The ray, and that is talking about this little thing right here. The ray showing the solution should be drawn to the right of 3, like this, instead of to the left of 3. Or D. The point at 3 should be filled in instead of open, and the ray should go in this direction. So they would fill it in and make it go to the right. That's what D is saying. So which one of those is correct? Number 13. Compare each expression below to the expression, and they tell you the expression right here, for all values of x. Select true for each expression with the same value. Select false. So I'm going to do two of these. I'm just going to do them randomly. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do this one. So here's what we're going to do first. We're actually going to simplify this. You can combine like terms. Since every number has the same variable, you can actually add 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 plus 3 is 14. This is what I just said. This is a visual of what I just said. And so what that means, since they all have the same variable, 5x plus 6x plus 3x equals 14x. That is great. This is what I'm looking for, okay? So now let me take the two numbers that I told you, or the two possibilities that I said I would look at. So first, 14x plus, now x by itself is the same thing as 1x. Remember that? 14x plus 1x is 15x. Is this the exact same thing as this? The answer is false. It's not. If this was 14x, it would be, but it equals 15x, so it's not the same. It's false. So let me look at the other one. Okay, now, I'm going to go ahead and add these two to get 3x and 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, you can't add or subtract numbers of the same variable, but you can multiply. 3x times 3 is 9x. And I'm going to bring this down, and I can add these two because they have the same variable. 9x plus 5x is 14x. Is that the same thing as what we got for this? Yes, it is. This simplifies to 14x, and this simplifies to 14x. So this one's false, but this one is true. So how I did that, you're going to have to do that for every single expression on there. For this one, and this one, and this one. Now, I would suggest you do it the same way, okay? Now, remember, you can't add the numbers if they don't both have the same variable. So be careful with this. And number 14, look at all that information. This is the last one, though, I think. This is the last one. The distance traveled by a car moving at 55 miles per hour can be represented by this equation. It's too dark. Where D is the distance traveled in miles and H is a number of hours driven. So which graph represents this relationship between distance traveled and hours driven? So basically, every hour that you drive your distance increases by 55 miles. So if you look at this and you're careful with it, only one graph makes sense. For the every 1 hour you increase, you're increasing by 55 miles in terms of the distance traveled. So you're going to have to figure, there's actually only two good graphs. There are two really bad graphs that don't make any sense, and then there are two good graphs. So compare the data and figure out which graph makes the most sense, okay? And that's it. I'm going to stop the recording. Hope that was helpful. Go back and rewatch any of this that you need to, as many times as you need to, if you have trouble understanding the question. That's really all the help that I can give you, though.